to the earth. And there will be 1,000 years on this planet that will be the greatest days that mankind has ever seen. You see, I believe in that. I believe in that kind of hope and that kind of day when there will be peace on the earth. I believe that the days that are coming ahead of us are far better than the days that are behind us. That's what I believe. And here they have Jesus Christ, the King of righteousness. But here they have someone that they took out of prison, out of a pit, a murderer, a thief. Boy, I know who that sounds like. They bring him out, ugly as he is, and they say, choose. And those people of the day, they rejected Jesus, and they said, give us Barabbas, crucify Jesus. And I'm here to tell you, that same choice is coming about right now. God says, you're the one that's going to choose the king. You're the one that's going to set him up. There's not going to be some political activist guy that's going to muscle his way into power, and most everybody is going to go, I don't like that guy, but he's the beast. He's going to reign over us. That's not how it's going to be. We're being set up right now for the choice, and people are going to choose this beast. That might have been contradictory or contrary to maybe the way we've been used to thinking, that all of a sudden this guy just steps up to power and says, I'm in charge, I'm in charge. And everybody says, well, he's in charge, we have to follow. That's not how it's going to be. We had this scenario where people are going to be drugged, kicking and screaming to these little infiltration centers where they all of a sudden they wake up and they're tattooed with some mark of the beast and they go, oh, I didn't want this. That's not how it's going to happen either. The Bible says the false prophet causes them. Causes them. There is a cause. Something happens to where everybody is going to say, I want the mark, and I choose this king to rule over me. And God says, in that day, because you made your choice, I have to deal with it now. You're going to cry unto me, and I'm not going to hear you. In the days when Adam and Eve were in the Garden of Eden, and they had two trees, the tree of life, representing Jesus Christ, the tree of knowledge of good and evil, representing the fusion of opposites, good and evil together, Baphomet. I'm going to be dealing with Baphomet in a very, very soon Watchman video broadcast. Something interesting is happening in the world right now. Be watching for that. But here's the tree of death. And Adam and Eve in the Garden of Eden, they made their choice. And God said, you have to live with it now. And He cast them out of the Garden of Eden. And they had to bear the shame of their iniquity on their own body. God providing grace and mercy, however, in the end. People are being set up right now for the choice. There are groups all over the world. We talk about, every now and then we'll talk about the Council of Foreign Relations, the Trilateral Commission, secret societies, the Vatican, the New Age movement, the emerging church movement. All of these movements working together. CAIR, C-A-I-R, this group that is trying to bring about radical fundamental Islam into America, trying to get Sharia law embedded into the states and into the nation. And all of these are working together to bring mankind to the cause whereby mankind says, this is the king that I want. One of those groups is the Bilderberg. This goes back all the way to 1954, and I'm trying to remember some of the little bit of the history that I dug up concerning the Bilderberg group. They got the name because they started meeting, 1954, they started meeting in the Bilderberg Hotel. And it was a secret. There was a group of people that wanted to bring about a change, a transformation. They believed in a doctrine called Atlanticism. And Atlanticism basically says all of the nations that, like North America, America and Canada, England, Spain, all of the European nations, the Western European nations, that are joined together by the bridge of the Atlantic Ocean, we want to make sure that we stay on top of things. We want to make sure that, and you know, if I can say this, the Bilderberg group, I was going over a list of all the nations that were attending the Bilderberg group. The Bilderberg Group tends to be very white, very Caucasian. It's almost as if they're joining together and they're saying we need to protect our way and to elevate our markets, our governments, protect our way of life at all costs, and to make sure that we are still on top of everything. A lot of what the Bilderberg Group does has to do with something I'm going to deal with. It's going to be pretty much the predominant idea here. The love of money. And when they meet, since 1954, they've sent out these little private invitations to bankers, to heads of states, to businessmen, moguls of different kinds. They send out this little invitation and they say, show up, such and such place, don't tell anybody. To my knowledge, Barack Obama this year was not at the Bilderberg meeting, although someone from our government was. Barack Obama was not at the Bilderberg meeting. But we do know that in the past, George Bush has shown up. And what you'll see is, maybe the news about George Bush being somewhere in London, or the president, let's say the president, being somewhere in Europe, doing this little, thing that presidents do in Europe and things like that. And all of a sudden, for about 2 or 3 days, you don't hear anything. You hear no news about what the president's doing. And then, maybe a few days after that, he shows up back at the White House signing papers and shaking hands with people and things like that. During those 2 or 3 days of silence, guess where the president was? It was at the Bilderberg meeting. They don't want anybody. Everything that is done there is done in secret. It's done in private. And I would kind of be careful about some of the more shady news organizations that are releasing ideas that say, we have somebody on the inside that's telling us what's going on in there. I don't know that I can necessarily trust that. I don't know that I can, if someone says, hey, I was sitting in the room and they said this and this, there's been too much of that stuff going around on the internet, and I tend not to trust it immediately. I tend not to believe exactly what someone says they leaked out of the Bilderberg meeting, because everything there is so tight-lipped. Did you know, we're going to deal with this, did you know that they actually have members of the press at the Bilderberg meeting? But for some reason, the members of the press who come out of the Bilderberg meeting, they never tell what's going on inside of there. They might issue some news stories a few months down the road that have everything to do with the agenda of the Bilderberg. But they're not going to tell what they said. They're not going to tell what's going on in there. And really, from what I can find out, no one really stands up and says, this is what we want you to do. Do it or die. It looks to me like all of this is voluntary. They all show up and say, you know what, yeah, this is what we're going to do. And they turn around, and those are the things that get done. And so really, the proof of what could be going on in the Bilderberg meeting might be seen 3 months down the road or 6 months down the road. You'll hear of some new economic policy. You'll hear of some new foreign policy. You'll hear of some new thing that Google or Microsoft is going to do. And you could more than likely trace the roots of that back to the Bilderberg meeting. How is it that we can know what's going on? I believe that God reveals secret things. Let me pull out a book here. Here is, and I've used this illustration before, here is Albert Pike and his Morals and Dogma. This is the Constitution of Freemasonry, as it were. The philosophies and ideas of Freemasonry. And there's a lot of symbols in here, and there's a lot of things in here that when you read it, you go, what in the world are they talking about? And here at the beginning of Morals and Dogma, it says, esoteric book, for Scottish rite use only, to be returned upon withdrawal or death of recipient. Now it says esoteric book. What that means that there is a hidden secret that accompanies this book. It usually has something to do with this double-headed eagle and the 33 stars and Ordo Ab Chao. But this book contains a secret. It's a secret that they don't want most everybody to know about. Nobody really is supposed to know the real secret that's in this book. And you can read this book from cover to cover and not uncover that secret. You might never get it. Contrast that with this book here. Luke chapter 8, verse 17. For nothing is secret, that shall not be made manifest, neither anything hid that shall not be known and come abroad. Daniel chapter 2, verse 22. He revealeth the deep and secret things. He knoweth what is in the darkness, and the light dwelleth with him. Now, there's two things that I know about the Bilderberg Group. Number one, I know who the chairman of the board is. I know who was sitting at the head of the table of every meeting that was going on there. And I'll tell you who that is at the end of the video. You have to wait for it. I also know who was present in the room as well, listening to every word and knowing every thought and knowing every secret agenda. I know who that was. He's referred to as the Holy Spirit was there. And God knows everything that happens in the darkness, everything that happens in secret, and everything that they try to keep secret, all their agendas and everything they try to keep secret, God says, I am going to reveal. I'm going to reveal what they're doing. I'm going to reveal why they're doing it. And so if you look around on the internet, you see the Bilderberg meeting, you know that something's going on. People are trying to get in. Photographers are taking pictures as they're strolling, down the countryside, taking a nice walk. Really, it's not all that big a secret who shows up at the Bilderberg meeting. And so there was a list of names that came out on the internet last week of some, maybe most, if not all, of the attendees of the Bilderberg meeting. And I got the list and I just started making notes. I started categorizing the different kinds of people that were showing up at the Bilderberg meeting. An interesting assortment of people that are showing up here. By the way, they never asked me. I'm still waiting for my invitation. They've never asked me. Probably because they know I wouldn't keep my mouth shut about what was going on. But anyway, it's an interesting assortment of people. And so I thought about to categorize the different groups or the different names that were represented at the Bilderberg meeting. And once I categorized them, it was easy to see the agenda that we know they have to be dealing with and have to be talking about. Remember, there's a king coming and a kingdom to rule over mankind. These are some of the people that are helping to prepare the way for this king. First of all, we deal with group number one, the bankers. Groups like Eurobank and the Royal Bank of Canada, Raiffeisen Bank, you'll have to excuse my German. The United States Federal Reserve had a representative there. What are all these banks doing at a top secret meeting? Why are they all, and you would think maybe the banks, maybe they're in competition with one another, but you have all these different banks and these large bank groups. And I kind of think, you know me, I kind of think some of the symbols of these banks are interesting. The Eurobank, here you have the illuminated capstone, the pyramid, the Raiffeisen Bank, looks like the X chromosome there, the Royal Bank of Canada, a lion with his paws over the world. I think that's interesting. I think it's a very interesting symbol. The Federal Reserve, the eagle, which Manly Hall says is not really an eagle, it's a phoenix. The phoenix, the bird that dives into the fire and resurrects by having his ashes reincarnated. That's a picture of the Antichrist, the beast. By the way, the beast looks like a lion in Revelation chapter 13. His all-seeing eye, the pyramid, the capstone that's on the back of the $1 bill. All of these things really, I think, are interesting as far as the symbolism of the kind of banks and the kind of people that are there. But something to remember when it comes to banks, and we're not just talking about the local bank in your town run by the guy that's been in the community for 80 years and he runs this local bank. We're talking about the big boys. We're talking about the banks that are loaning the nations the money. We're talking about the most powerful entities on planet Earth. And what is it that drives them? What spirit drives an international bank or the consortium